Welcome to this new course. We're going to discuss about trigger in this course and how to manage the emotional triggers. It's something that we are sometimes exposed after a breakup, and if you're having a hard time right now dealing with a breakup, dealing with a difficult partner, especially if they're avoidant, this course can be very helpful. The module 1 of this course is really about understanding the emotional triggers. As you know, the content that I'm creating online is to really help you learn and understand how we function, because I have a strong belief that in order for us to heal, to progress, you need to understand how things work. The same way, I'm going to try to find an excuse on this, an example on the spot. If you want to understand how to navigate a boat, it's important to understand how it functions, how all the different elements will function together. So the objective is to identify how these triggers are developed, and we're going to discuss a little bit about your childhood. At the end of the video, you'll have some exercise, things that you can do at home. This is the module 1 of the course. Other parts of the course will be available on my private community. Check in the description should you want to access the other part of the course, which will also give you a worksheet and things that you can use. The element and the reason I'm making those courses is for you to not only to learn, so that was the first element, but also to take action. Now I know that it's watching my content, watching other content online, you have this feeling of okay, it makes sense, or feeling understood, feeling validated. Now I want you to go to the next stage, which is like, okay, from this knowledge, what can I do about it? How can I, what are the things I need to implement right now? I've been through therapy for many years, and I remember the first few years, I was like, okay, but then what's the point? Can you tell me? And I was like really asking my therapist, like, okay, we're gonna see each other next week, but what should I do between the sessions? And she was not really giving me any guidance, and I don't like that. And I don't want you to feel like you don't have the tools, or you don't have the elements for you to make that progress between sessions. If you're seeing a therapist, if you're watching videos, again, it's how can you bring that knowledge and take it into action. So what are emotional triggers? 3 ways to define it. Obviously, the intense emotional reaction. Again, it's really automatic. That's the thing that really characterizes triggering things, is that you can't help it, and that's why it's so hard in some context that you are not in control of your actions or your thoughts. And that's the second element, is hijacking your thinking. When you're triggered, because you're on this fight or flight, I will discuss in a second, state, you can't think clearly, you can't function properly. And that's why a lot of people after a breakup, for instance, when they're in touch with their ex, they have a hard time, they are triggered, they can't be really helpful at work, they can't really function properly, they have a hard time functioning because their nervous system is overloaded. And obviously the impact also is around the negative feelings, anxious, angry, ashamed, rejected. Pick your side, pick yours. And so the thing is, what's very important is to understand it's not random. See it as emotional shortcuts. The way you look at it is like, the reason you react this way is because somehow in the brain you associate this event with something painful, difficult that you had to cope. And what you're doing, your brain is protecting yourself from the perceived outcome, perceived result. So something happens, you interpret it as a danger, and so basically you're gonna block everything out. So that's why, for instance, if you have an anxious attachment style, I wouldn't react the same way for exactly the same thing that would trigger you, because I'm an avoidant. But in any case, the way I see the world and the way I function, my triggers will be very different than yours. So again, it's very personal, it's down to our own history. The point here is, yes, the result or the outcome is that you're overreacting. And maybe sometimes you feel like, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that, I regret my actions, etc., etc. Fair enough. But the point is like, it's your brain, in a way, acting out of something that was not healed. And that's a piece of information that is extremely important should you want to move forward. Many of you want to work on themselves. Being triggered, even though it's not, it's not super nice, is the starting point. Let's discuss about the mechanic of childhood, how childhood shapes that emotional response. The way we relate to emotion is something that we learn with our parents, with our caregivers. Okay, if our emotional needs weren't met, were dismissed, we may have learned coping mechanism different depending on your upbringing, on your situation, on the environment, not necessarily the parents, but if you grew up in a very distressed environment, that will also have a role. And so depending on how you respond to these elements, you will map out as a child, okay, this is a situation, it keeps on happening, therefore that must be the truth, that must be the baseline, and I'm going to always act out of this. So, for example, suppressing feelings, typical of dismissive avoidance. Boys don't cry, it's fine, you'll be fine. Having feelings is not bad, but it's kind of a sign of weakness. Sometimes you would doubt yourself. You're overreacting. So you can't trust your emotions, right? You feel like I'm crying, I'm sad, and your parent will dismiss you. That's too much. Sometimes it would be about, especially in families where you have siblings and you have the role of being the older sibling, being the second mom, the second dad, and therefore forgetting who you are as a child. So basically prioritizing others' feelings before yours. And so this is what we call in psychology conditioning. Conditioning is something is happening, and there's like a cue, and then, or basically how habits are built. Conditioning is, okay, something is about to happen, I've seen that in the past, and I need to react this way without thinking. And so if I summarize very briefly, secure attachment style, emotional needs were met consistently, therefore emotions are safe. Anxious attachment style is love was inconsistent, I'm not sure if my dad or my mom will be around, and I need someone to soothe me. So the strange experiment from Mary Ann Worth is like looking at children, how they would soothe after they are distressed. Avoidant, they don't need anyone, they go on their own, they don't care about their mother. Secure kids will go with their mom, have a hug, and then will soothe at some stage. Anxious kids will hug their parents, but will still feel distressed despite the hug of their parent. So as I said, like avoidant attachment style, emotions discouraged, being vulnerable is not helpful, it's going to hold you back. And disorganized is this idea of unpredictability, and usually chaotic families. So if you have a fearful avoidant, usually you grew up in dysfunctional families. When you have those templates, or the way you look at things, the story you're telling yourself, you will keep on repeating those patterns. So the point, as an adult watching this video, learning on how to heal, how to move forward, working on themselves, is to detach yourself from those stories, because they are not helpful. Some of them are helpful, some of them are not. Most of the things that we carry from our childhood that are unconscious is not helpful, right? And you wouldn't be watching this video if there weren't few things or few insecurities that you would want to work on. The point is like not to blame yourself for having those insecurities. I had those insecurities. That's not the point. The point is like, what am I doing again? And how to overcome those insecurities. Quick point on the nervous system and also the neurobiology on this. Amygdala is the part of the brain that will store all the memories, the painful memories. It's kind of the security alarm system. So whenever there's an emotional danger, okay, it activates the fight or flight response, which was extremely helpful back in the days, thousands of years ago, where we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have social media, but we were quite exposed to danger in the nature. When we were hunters and gatherers, it was very important for us to be able to map out the danger in the world and basically make assumptions and predictions based on what we've learned, right? If this place is scary and I've seen, I don't know, a tiger or a lion or whatever, I know this is scary and I'm going to activate this fight or flight response to avoid being killed. And so the point is, like, it's very efficient because it's using the system 1 brain, the automatic part of the brain, emotional trigger, automatically fight or flight, connecting to that emotional memory. Emotional memory are way stronger than all the other memory, right? Because they are linked to that amygdala. And so the problem is the amygdala is very much like a stupid computer, very fast, very well programmed, because the point is the way it's designed is to be fast, but not to be necessarily challenging things. And so the amygdala wouldn't know the difference between a threat of a car is about to hit me or my partner is sending me a text. It's exactly the same response. And so the thing is, as adults, as human beings who want to work and be smarter than our amygdala, it's about how can we understand the process in our brain and find that detachment, being able to pull the plug from this emotional response. And in a way, when you are triggered, it's a reminder that there's a wound. So usually when people are triggered, usually when you're having a hard time, that's actually perfect for me as a therapist, because that tells me this is where we need to investigate. Obviously, the temptation is to say, I don't want to experience this pain. I don't want to feel triggered. That's why I want to get back with my ex, because being without them, staying in the contact is difficult. But in a way, deep inside, you know that's not how to do it. The way to do it is to face those insecurities. Should you want to unpack them? Should you want to move away from this fight or flight response? There's also, I talked about child or past when we were children, but there was also an element on past relationships. And I think most of my clients dated people who had an avoidant attachment style. And it's quite typical for those relationships to leave a stain. I had a call just before recording this course with a client. She moved on. She's divorcing her ex, but now she's having a hard time. She's dating someone, great guy, but she's having a hard time trusting this person, because in a way her amygdala is still being activated because she's looking at elements of stress and danger, whereas like it's just like, nobody's perfect, so there will be things that you would want to change in your partner. So to go back to the course, emotional script, so things that are formed in childhood, then we have this assumption, and then we meet people who reinforce those beliefs. And this is why, and it's fascinating because sometimes we make so if we were aware of those things, we will make better relationship decisions in the first place. We seek familiarity without knowing. And so if you have an anxious attachment style, for example, in a way, unconsciously, you would attract people who would reinforce this belief around you need validation, people are not there for you, and so on and so forth, which doesn't make sense because ideally you would want someone like you, but you're attracted to people who are a little bit different, who complement you in that sense, but also remind you of those belief systems. And so what happens is that because you're dating those people, you get those emotional triggers again. And what happens is when those relationships don't work out, you have this, what we call breakup magnification. I shouldn't use this word. Is that the old wounds would resurface louder than before. It's my fault. I should not trust myself. I should not trust my judgment. And so all new relationship will add to the relationship evidence. If your need were dismissed, you expect to be rejected. If love was conditional, you start a relationship thinking, I need to fight for this person. You panic when the connection feels unstable. If vulnerability led to pain, you shut down. So for avoidant like myself, if being vulnerable, intimate is a danger, then anytime my partner, before I developed my secure attachment style, I would shut down. I would disappear. I would self-sabotage the relationship. I would do not everything, but I would do my best to be awful so my partner can dump me. Right? So very typical strategy for avoidance. They don't want to work on a relationship. They feel like it's too much work. And so they are stopping any work. They disappear, they ghost. I used to do that a lot. Not proud of it. Waiting for the other to actually pull the plug. Because at the same time, I'm an avoidant, but I'm also a people pleaser. So I don't want to have the bad role of ending up things. I say I don't. I didn't. I've changed now. The key insight here is that those emotional triggers, they are not a proof that you're broken. Okay? It's normal to have wounds because we all have imperfect parents. I had loving parents. I have a great family. I don't have any resentment towards them, but they were not perfect. And so I created those insecurities when I grew up. The point, and maybe you had very dysfunctional parents and you have a bad relationship with your parents, doesn't matter. The thing is, right now you can make the decision. What am I doing with this? How can I move forward? And so to me, it's really an invitation to heal. Right? That's your role now. Self-parenting, and that's what we will do in this course, in this challenge, is to really heal those wounds, work through those wounds, and progress, and regain that trust that you potentially lost, or this confidence that you probably lost if you broke up, for example, recently with your partner. So I would invite you to reflect a little bit on your childhood and answer those questions. So maybe pause the video. I will read them out loud. I will share the worksheet and the handouts of the course on the private community, so have a look in the description to join. The first question is, how were emotions handled in your home growing up? What were you praised or punished for when it comes to the emotion? What were the emotional survival strategies you developed? Because the thing is, when you're a child, you don't know. You do your best. And so you develop coping strategies. You don't know their coping strategies, right? And in a way, you're being taught to develop those coping strategies, either through your parents or on your own. For instance, as a dismissive avoidant, I taught myself that if I were to disappear in my room, I won't have any problem, right? My parents would never confront me if I would go in my bedroom and fake sleeping or pretending that I work. Right? That was my go-to place, my strategy. Is it helpful? No. Is it mature? No. But when you're 7 years old, that's what you do. But as an adult, I'm 40 now, the question is like, okay, I'm still doing it. Maybe there's something I need to learn from it. Maybe there's something I need to change. And so it's figuring out from this, I feel triggered. I want to escape in my room. Going back to this example, I don't want to confront that person. Being able to link it to like, hold on, you're about to act like a 7 years old. Do you still want to do it? No. Let's figure out what would be the right response. That's what we will do in this course together. It's like breaking those patterns. And that's actually the last question. The question is like, how might those patterns show up in your current relationship? So you see, we really understand like the mechanics and the psychology and how we see the world, how we react based on how we see the world. And then we analyze, okay, how does it play in relationship? So when you have a fight or disagree with your spouse, what do? You go in your bedroom and you pretend to sleep. So obviously it's not working out when you have an adult relationship, but it's important to, again, gain that understanding. And then the next stage would be to rewire this emotional response. That's what we will do again in this course. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you on the private community. We'll also do a challenge if you join the course when we will launch, and participate to the workshops. Again, the point is, okay, you feel a certain way, you're being triggered. That shouldn't limit yourself on how you see the world. That's just an indication that, okay, that means, okay, you're on the right path. Now it's about like, what do I do with this information in order for me to heal and move forward?